So yeah,
Right.
that
Oh, we're
I,
gonna ask
Uh,
Raquel. Where have you been catching Pokemon around the house, my house lately?
yes. Yes, I
Did
have.
Did you know
so
that Larry, there's Pokemon hiding probably in your place right now?
I did not know that. So I never really got hooked into that, to be honest.
Oh well.
Um, but yeah, no, it's an interesting concept to have this artificial um, kind of construct that overlays everything that you're interacting with.
Exactly. I
Where
mean, it's existing in the same space as us, all right,
right,
but all virtually. This is the difference, right? So they've had the Hollow masks. I mean, the HoloLens, the what you call it, the
yeah,
Oculus, things like that for a very very long time. I know that because I remember seeing way back in the day. That kind of stuff you would put on the thing, and then every time you turned around, you saw something. It was usually, I guess they got better because the graphics also got better. They got faster
well,
to react, but
and
it is
the
still,
yeah, the head
someone else.
tracking and all of the tracking has really evolved
Yes.
now, so that the Oculus 2, which I've got an Oculus 1, the Oculus 2 doesn't have a external machine that you're connecting to. It is its own machine. So it's just a
Wow.
headset. And
Oh,
so we're seeing this evolution, and we're getting to the point now that compute has gotten small enough and ubiquitous enough that we're able to really interact with these virtual environments in new ways.
yeah.
So
We're
the
taking a look at the picture right over here. See this? What can you see what I have on the share screen right now?
Yes, the HoloLens 2. I don't. Ooh, I like that. I
Oh,
don't see a wire.
I don't see a wire.
Yeah, that's pretty
Uh,
cool.
that was the issue before. Wait, look at this. There's an avatar there. There's we go the metaverse avatars on top of the augmented, and there's the person actually working in the actual environment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
That this is like, I mean, the cloud has definitely made this possible. Clearly,
Right. Well, and they're talking about using it to again to augment what people are seeing, so that um, it's one thing to go to Google and look something up,
yep.
and watch. I had to work on our washing machine, right? So I went online, I looked up, watched the Google video on how to do something, then I went in there and
Right.
did it. Man, would it have been great if I could have put on a pair of glasses and had it walk me through
And
step by
put on
step?
the video, and you're in the video, and all of a sudden it just superimposes with your machine, and you're
Right.
following the hand as it goes in there and does its stuff. There was like the Moon Knight episode yesterday. Oh yeah, so I get Disney Plus, where literally like the ancient god is like doing this exact thing. It's like do what I do to like turn back time, and the guy's just doing the same thing. Well, hey, wait a minute, that's exactly the same thing. Well,
It
what
is.
augmented reality is, do what I do, put your thing in there, or mimic it. It's easier when it's referenced right there, just like when you're tracing through paper, than
Hmm.
to like watch and then like rewind. What's that? What does that look like? What the angle?
Well, and the way these augmented realities work, I mean, the way this works is it also can interact based on what you're doing. So if you move over and start unscrewing the wrong screw, you can get a red X that says, no, no, that's not the right one. Don't listen to that
Oh,
one.
yeah,
Wouldn't that,
just like the
wouldn't that be
maps when
cool?
we go a different direction, and you get
Exactly.
that. We're going to add 10 minutes to your drive.
Mhm.
Oh,
Recalculating
why
steps.
not?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
So,
So, well, let's see. We got the so there's that augmented. There's the metaverse.
right.
Raquel was talking about this one, this VTuber, Code Miko. Could you explain this one again, Raquel? She actually has an avatar that actually moves around and talks with people.
Yeah, so she has body tracking and everything. So a whole bodysuit as well as like facial
Whoa.
tracking. And so she just updated her model. So that's the new one on the left that has really amazing hair physics and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So she's pretty awesome.
Oh wow! So this is like so you're not only are you just the avatar just talking like a flat thing over here, you're actually 3D, and because you're wearing the whole bodysuit during, I imagine the presentation. It's just like if you had to wear a suit every time you came over here, like not like we're always well dressed or something like that, but if we had to wear a suit every time we came to a meeting,
Well, but see, the difference is, and here's an important part. We're transmitting full video, but all we're seeing is this square space that we're in, right? That's all we're
yes,
seeing. But there's a lot of bandwidth that's being used by this. If you can capture the body and then render the body on the external, at the receiving end, then you don't have to transmit that full bandwidth.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
they've talked about doing some of that with, even in Teams, they've talked about being able to do the real-time translation, right? Where on my side, it would be pulling it in English. On your
Right.
side, it would be spitting it out in Spanish.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
why not do English and English and then just transmit the text instead of the actual audio? Because you can deep fake my voice.
Right.
And no, I mean, think
That's
about
true,
that,
but it's
because,
true.
and then you can do more interactive, more higher impact on devices like phones, because you're not actually having to send all of that data. You're just having to recreate it on the other side.
So that, I mean, that's the main issue over here. The reason why things like the metaverse and everything else become possible. Again, we like the cloud, but as we know recently with our recent purchases of new machines and stuff like that, is that in the end of the day, there's still going to be hardware in that story. And the hardware closer to us, the more powerful that hardware becomes, the easier it is, or the easier it is to say consume what the cloud gives, because the cloud has overpassed this for already. They've overpassed hardware, at least on our side, as of this point. There's very few people with the power to, let's just say, use that power, right? But that's the key. We're going to start catching up to that.
Well,
but part of it, half of it's just not just the technology, but also the patterns and the frameworks and everything else that are built to make that work. Because it's like the infrastructure's code.
And we're going from interactions of a few, like the priests, right? You remember back in the mainframe days?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, I remember.
When you would have your deck of cards, and you would take them to the over priest, right? You would do your work, you take them to the priest, who would then submit the job, and you had very few people that were interacting simultaneously. But we're talking about taking this really to the people in the streets. We're talking about moving it out so that we're having a lot more people involved, and that's why bandwidth becomes an issue again, right?
Very true.
Because you're multiplying it by the billions of people that live on this earth. So, it's and being able, we are going to be remote, right? I've recently moved, but my son goes to school here in New York. We're not moving out of the city, right? So we're still here, but once he graduates, hey, why do we have to live in New York? Why can't we live in Connecticut or Arizona or Utah?
That's always the thing. It's like as long as the connection speed is possible, which is why all efforts to try to bring the speed to the rest of the world, every kind of technology that works there. Well, that's all great for the democratization of the data, but that almost eliminates, like, well, why would someone have to get paid a certain amount, a rate for a certain city than to be somewhere else? It becomes really tough. Now it's like, well, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Are you telling me because you desire to pay more taxes at this place over here and live in a nice, culturally nice place when you go outside, I have to pay you more? Otherwise, maybe I could have had you live in a farm and you stay put, and I can pay you less, and you do the same work. I'll stop you there. There's a lot of people like it, but the case is, like, if I love living in a farm and that's my thing and that's great, and it's like, I will take your money for that, right? But sometimes it's like the reason why you have to pay me more is because I have a choice between doing that work or doing maybe what I like, here in my culturally available area.
Some of our peers, some of the people that worked at the company we shared in the past, have gone to places that's their shtick, right? That's what they do.
What they do.
I don't know if you know rural sourcing. It's all about putting, people that live in rural areas in tech jobs, because their cost of living is low. That means that you don't have to pay them as much, right? But see, this is the weird thing. Are you paying the person based on where they live, or on based on what they can do?
Thank you very much. Exactly.
And that's hard, because I think that, really what we
We
should be
know.
looking at is what someone can do.
Exactly.
And if it's a 100% remote job, that's great. But if it ever turns into one that's not 100% remote,
Mhm.
then you have to start worrying about where someone lives. You have to worry
Yes.
about that again.
But there will
So,
always be that case where people still need to meet, meet to get in the area. There is still the services that have to be rendered in all these places that you have to go
right.
see. And even if they're augmented or however things are going, those will still exist. So giving that to the level field, it now comes to the higher points, the so-called the developers, the folks that are that live purely into content creation and everything else. Is a person in the country as productive as a person in the city? So shouldn't you not just pay them the same? Or is the city person somehow seeming more productive because they're in a place that makes them move their mind faster because they otherwise if they don't they get run over by traffic, uh, versus the other
Sure.
one who's more relaxed is like, well, I'll take my time getting it, whatever, or not. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that person, because they have no distractions, whack,
Right.
gets it done, and
Can
that person's
concentrate.
distraction city, noise, all that stuff is not as productive. Ooh, uh-oh.
And see what we're really getting though, this
Right.
metaverse, especially with the and Nvidia, man, I'm so
Yes.
glad you've got Nvidia up there. If you look at them, one of the things they recently did, I don't know if you knew or if you've seen, in one of their big meetings, they had a CEO come out and talk, but it
Yep.
really wasn't him. It was all done digitally. He was all created.
So he was created himself.
Yes.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Rendered, and all of this real-time rendering that we're able to get on these machines is amazing. You're right. You can get reality that's not real. That's virtual, but as real as what you can get now. So, I mean, looking at me, obviously you can tell that it's not
Right.
I'm real here, right?
This
I'm
is
not
true.
virtual. But man, it's getting closer and closer to where we can do things that bend reality to our our whims.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, we're watching that right now. This is the NVIDIA demo that they just give out on their only rolling out rolls. Everything that we're looking at over here is apparently completely generated by computer. But we knew they can do this well. That is, I'm sorry, but that's actually very cool. No.
Okay, back up. Try again. Yeah, and this is all being rendered real time, and it's just kind of insane the amount of compute power that we have available to us now, and not all of it is on the is really in the web, right? Is in our cloud, but more and more of it is we're just having to look at what we're really rendering locally versus what we are rendering in the cloud and streaming to ourselves.
I mean, the only thing missing here is the AI piece, essentially, to fill in the blanks. That the AI, by the way, AI does a lot of fill in the blanks as a lot of this stuff right now. That's a lot of the so-called AI. Some of it there's two things. AI where it's actually, making that if you close the box, you open it would be a different story. The Schrodinger's cat situation, or is it just simply programming that said, well, it is doing exactly what the program said. The program said, switch statement, this happened exactly this path because I programmed this path. True AI is there's no switch statement. It makes its switch statement on the fly and says, well, I came up with something. I observed these 4 choices. I will now turn those 4 choices into 4 possibilities, upon which I've now observed that the next time I did it, there were 5. I will now go ahead and update my own code, so to speak, to include that 5th choice. And because I learned from the other ones, I know how to now nuance my choices of the 5.
Well, and when we augment reality as opposed to creating our own full virtual reality, we can allow the computer to extrapolate its own rules from what it's viewing, because in virtual reality it's not interacting with things that are out in the real world, but in augmented reality, we do have a channel that's going back into this virtual environment, so that we can see how those things interact. And yeah, really, it's about those emergent rules that it learns on its own. So
yeah, to me, it's like this is how most of us are probably going to end up being on the moon or on Mars or anything else like that. We will have our virtual avatars, perhaps bots, actual mechanicals that are out there that are us. Was there a movie about that where everyone was a bot, but everyone was actually at home, just like staying at home? I think it sounds like a Bruce Willis movie or something like that.
Yeah, sounds like
one of those. But it almost feels that way. It's like that would be your way to be somewhere without having to be somewhere. You're never going to get sick or have to deal with the groundhog like I am. Sorry, allergy season too, where it just comes after you. But that would be our way of being there. To be at a meeting where, like, if you have to be there, would the companies accept the bots showing up at work?
There you go. And that's
Would that be cool? You see all these things, like you're going to work and all of a sudden following you at work are all these like small little contraptions just going, and they're not going to be big. Why make it big? You're going to use up space, energy, and all that stuff. You're going to make them as compact as possible, maybe even flying around you, going through. You don't need all that extra.
You need to look up, I think it's The Good Fight. They had a virtual worker that was, a little two-wheeler, right? A little Segway-like machine with a tall stick on it and somebody's little iPad that they were using to control it. It was annoying. I mean, I hope we don't get there. I mean, that's just, that's wrong.
Yeah, well, so you realize, though, and so people have to think it through, right? So, like, well, okay, and when they say, like, hey, you have the robots and they have arms and all that, so hold on a second, stop and think. Yeah. Why do you have arms? Well, I have arms so I can open the door. Well, if you can just think and the door opens, do you need an arm for that? No. Well, I might want to have a drink of coffee. Wait a minute, that's your bot. You don't need to do coffee.
Right. That's right.
Oh, so I don't need my arm. So keep thinking of the reasons why you still need your. Now you have to justify the pieces of you. They say, well, why do you need this? Well, I need my eyes to see. Okay, fine. You need something to see. Okay, let you keep that. I need to taste. Why? What's there to taste?
Why?
Maybe not. And then all of a sudden,
hey, I don't want to smell, right?
Exactly.
My next door neighbor brings in a tuna fish sandwich. I mean, come on, really? In an office, what are you going to do? The burnt popcorn? I'm not going to miss that.
I can already think of a show with just that alone, just like the ideas. Like when you're coming up with stuff, it's like you think about controls. It's like the usual controls, like a car has a wheel. And a wheel, somebody was putting that together, and that was the contraption mechanically. At the time, it made sense because mechanically that made sense. But now that we have things that are radio controlled and everything else, when we discovered that we can use a controller, a little phone to make a car, a joystick or whatever to make a car move back and forth and do all this stuff, then you realize, well, hold on a second. So do you still need the wheel, which is taking up all this room, taking up all this space, and taking up all these resources just to create? Or could you not just go into your head, turn left, turn right, and your car follows you? I don't have really that control there. Well, hold on a second. That's just you getting used to it. You grew up with a wheel all your life or watching people on the wheel. But if you've never, ever seen a wheel, and we started you off with the...
Hang on. Yeah, let's think about modern cars too, because you really back in the day, right? The wheel that you turn actually was mechanically attached to the front wheels. Eventually, right? You could follow it all the way through, and that's not the way it is in modern cars. It's all fly-by-wire anyway. So you're not actually physically connected to the wheels anyway, right? There's not a physical connection through there. There might be hydraulics and other things involved, but yeah, those could actually be.
That started with power steering. You remember power steering?
Power assist.
Power assist or power steering is what they used to call it. Back, I remember there was cars without power steering. I remember because when you tried to turn it, it was like really, like especially those big solid metal cars. And then they added power steering, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, look at that. And you can feel it. You can feel like the air going.
Yeah,
and pushing things through.
The first power steering was the knob that you would put on your wheel so that you could turn it.
That's right.
Remember those?
The extra one. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you get the knob on there for being able to turn.
Right.
But,
So now when you're going electronic, if you think about it, all you have to do is just make the motion behind the scenes, whatever power or whatever is needed to make this happen has already been
well,
done.
there's already a disconnect, right? There's already a disconnect from there. There is no mechanical connection anymore. And so why not just put something, put a computer brain in the middle, and then change that upscale or that upstream interface, and no longer have it be a wheel. Yeah, absolutely.
Little things like that.
Same thing. Back to the cars, right?
Yeah.
You remember when you had to shift gears, and
That's
then you
true.
had the automatic, right? That you didn't have to shift gears. Did you ever see the cars that had the push buttons like the old radios with the radio stations? They had push buttons that you would use to change the gears.
That's right. We almost my mom wanted to get a new car, and she was thinking of a Nissan, and then they had exactly that. It was just a regular Nissan, and she said, I just want one with stick shift, because she always felt good with stick shift, because there was a time back in the day when they said if you're not stick shift and you get stuck, you're really, really stuck. And I'm like, Mom, at your age, are you really going to be pushing the car anyway?
Right.
Before with the old gears, you could like roll down the car and then you can get it started. But when you had like the automatic, that could never happen. You had to have one of those where you can actually go on. So, and then she started working with it, and then she noticed there was an extra gear, and then you had to push the button. She's like, I can't use that. That's just as bad as automatic for me. And then you start thinking about, well, hold on a second. What's the point of buttons for shifting gears?
No, this one didn't have any shifter at all. It was all in the dash. You would just push a button to change from drive to reverse. It was a button push on the dash completely.
For the automatic, but this was actually shift from first to second to third. It's like, why would you do that? Oh, so you can have performance. Okay, if you're a racer and you want to manually, switch the gears to get that performance, but most of us really don't. Do you really need it?
And again, that shifter that you have in your car isn't really physically connected to the transmission anymore, right?
No, it's just
it used to be. It used to be a mechanical connection. Now we're all fly-by-wire. So
now I'm wondering what's the point of that thing taking up space now on the side of my car, or on the, remember the old, you had him on the
steering column.
Yep. Yeah. But then you go drive and all that. If it's all button anyway, should it be on here, or are we coming to the point where pretty soon when we go into a car, it'll be like, what's that? The little box over there. What do you do with that box?
Right. Well, so think about your day in the office, right? Okay, it's been a couple of years since we've been in the office. We're actually the company I'm currently working for is opening up offices now. There's no requirement to go back in, but if you want to go into the office, you certainly can. But what in the office do you actually need to do, right? We need to rethink all of those interfaces, and that's, again, brings us all the way back around to this metaverse idea, right?
You got it.
Because one of the reasons that you want to go into the office is so that you can interact with people at a higher bandwidth connection, right? We're doing voice and video, but it's still not the same. We can't go walking around. I mean, my headset's wireless, but I can't walk you around my room and show and point at things. We can do a whiteboard, but it's really not the same,
right,
as a real whiteboard that people.
That'll be hopefully a demo coming up soon. The whiteboard on Teams, the one where you're actually writing there, and then you can see through the person's hand writing through. Oh, don't worry, we'll come to that.
Yeah, but see, that's
the idea, though.
Is it gives you a broader, it gives you more bandwidth for your communications, and we are visual people, right? I mean, human beings. This is how we interact.
Yes.
And so there's a reason this is a video cast, or not really an old school podcast.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. We would like you to see it, like you to feel it, get that, especially as we start going through and looking at things. You'll see how we look at it. You might say, maybe I would have clicked on here or clicked on something else. That's all fine and well, but now your juices are thinking, about what to do next.
And so, here's a great, introduction article to the metaverse, right?
Right.
And it's on Syngetti Labs. But if you don't know what it is, I'm just here to tell you, you know, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, you can live without those.
Of course.
Okay, but they're fun to play with. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, but I can do my job without it. I'm not going to be able to do my job in 3 years without knowing more about this higher bandwidth communication that is going to be called the metaverse. I really do believe that our client interactions are going to be different, and we're going to have to help develop systems that interact in different ways.
Yeah. Yes, we have to think it through. Again, we think it through. We have to not bring the old ways of coming in. Sometimes we come in, it's like, well, we want to be able to do what we were doing when we were not there on there. And I have to ask, well, okay, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Client, for your requirement. Now, would you like to explain why you want that? So you can tell us why you want. I don't mind taking your money, but perhaps explain to me why you want to give me that money, because I'll take note of it, because when I do this again, I want to be better at it. And when you ask me again, I want to be better for you. Of course, when they start thinking it through, it's like, maybe we don't need that. It's like, oh, well, okay, very good, Mr. Client. Let's continue on that tack. How many things? Usually, you know what we say? Sometimes we talk people out of it as a way of solving problems.
Yes.
You can solve a problem by solving the problem, or you can talk them out of the problem. That's the other way to solve a problem. It's not a problem if you don't think it's a problem anymore.
So when we interact with clients, you're exactly right. One of the things that we need to do is stop listening to them tell us what they want us to do, and start interacting with them and forcing them to tell us what they need to happen.
Yes.
Right. Tell us outcomes.
What they need to happen. Exactly. What's outcomes? Like, if this happens, that happens. So, like, does it matter how it happens? If that's important, then explain how that affects the outcome. It's like, well, if it happens in this way, this is the outcome that should happen. So, well, hold on a second. Then explain the relationship with that. If they can't, they're like, well, I know when I do it, I like it. I'm like, okay. Do other people like it?
Okay. Yeah.
That's okay. It's a valid choice, but now you're going to have to justify it. Well, Mr. Client, did you stop to think that maybe other people may not like it? What's your thought? And it's like, okay, I don't care if they don't like it. Fine. Then that's what you're going to get. But at least I gave you thought. I made you think. And then remember, it doesn't hurt when you're doing stuff with clients. If the client in the end says, no, I still want it this way, that's part of the whole process. It's the way it works out. You know, it's all fair in love and coding. You know, as the way to, as I say sometimes. But in the end, if you did not ask, then it's on you, right? If you did not ask, if you did not put it through, right? Then. Yeah. What was the point? Because
we have to be obligated. I mean, that's part of our obligations as senior consultants, right? As principals, as
folks doing the work here. Yeah.
Right. And if we're meant to lead, we have to not only know where we're going, but we have to know why we're going there.
Yeah. We have to understand. The path. I mean, otherwise, if it's automated, then again, let the robot do it. Really, truly, if you're just going to automate, just do it. Then why isn't the robot doing it? Frankly,
what does it? So you need accounting to sign off on all of these things. What happens when they sign off on it? Why do they have to sign off on it? You know, what do they look for? Can we automate that? Can we bring it in so that the application just won't let someone put in bad data? Why have it go through an approval process when we can stop it before they put the data in?
Exactly. It's like
why let them make a bad request?
That's my favorite with approval process. We need someone to approve this order. It's like, well, if the AI can tell you, I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. User entering that information, you're not going to get approved. It's like, well, why? He might like what I got. Now, again, there's subjective. There's going to be subjective. I'm submitting art. Well, okay, it might get approved, it might not. Well, that's subjective. But if I tell you I'm submitting art and I'm doing it in watercolor, well, they just said no watercolors, blah, right? Why did you submit a watercolor? Why? And then I don't want to have to reject you because it came as a watercolor when the system could have not let a watercolor come in the first place. Nothing against watercolor though, but it's just picking a topic.
No, well, I mean, you're supposed to upload a picture. and you're uploading a JPEG, or you're uploading a PDF instead of a JPEG, right? Or you're uploading a JPEG instead of a PNG. You know,
you're uploading the
there are
form
filters.
256 versus the form 257. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, oh yeah, but it's still part of the 200 series forms. I know, but it's
Yeah.
clearly the rule says. Well, where does the rule say? Well, it's up to the person approving to decide which rule applies to that. Why do you mean? Why is it up to them? What's their criteria?
What's their criteria? We keep backing off those steps until we can come to the actual, you know, the core of the decision-making process. And as the further we can push that into the user's face, the person that's having to interact with the software, the better off we are, because they don't have to wait, right? There's this whole approval process where it bounces in and comes back out, and 2 days have passed, and oh my gosh. No,
Yeah.
you don't need to do any of that.
As I say, so folks, as they say, in the cloud world, as much as we like to talk about the tech, and remember, it's those good old soft skills that in the end will save the day. I mean, the reason why the cloud has gotten so far now, I think, is a lot of this. Folks are, to whatever levels, they are practicing a lot of what you're hearing over here. There are sensible folks out there. I mean, there are folks that might have nefarious ends what they want later on, but oddly enough, they're doing it with some smarts, which makes it scary, and at the same time, all right, well, we know that perhaps there is some intelligence that we might be able to communicate to.
And really, you know, if you're a business and you know you're thinking about moving into the cloud, or if you're consulting with someone that's thinking about moving into the cloud, really talk to them about why they want to move and make sure that they're moving for the right reasons.
Yes.
You know, set yourself up for success. I mean, that's the key. A consultant's job is to never surprise their end user, right? You set expectations well, and also set yourself up for success. Make sure that what you're delivering is what they're expecting.
Yes.
So
I mean, that's one is a straightforward one. Yeah, the other ones, if they know what they're supposed to get at the end, they should be good.
Right. Be able to prove what they got. Yeah.
Speaking of good, I have a stakeholder that's calling me out over here.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have to call it.
I think we're gonna have to call it. Yeah.
It's been a good Friday.
It has been. It has been a good episode. And on a good Friday.
So yes.
Yes. When we were going to carry on next week, maybe our guests will be able to make it next week and stuff. We'll follow through. We're going to have more on the metaverse, under these kind of things. As the technology evolves, if we can put it in here, if our meeting system allows us to do it, we'll do it. But we're not going to get too crazy, because that's for other people to do. We'll let them do it. But you never know.
I don't know
all of a sudden
green screen behind me yet, but you know,
so,
maybe.
I got a giant whiteboard behind me now, which you can't see, but that's in preparation of what I would like to do, which is true. I'm actually whiteboarding while I'm meeting. That's the next thing that I need to do.
Nice.
So that's going to be coming on as soon as possible.
So are you going to put is it a whiteboard or
it's a combination of a special kind of Logitech camera, which is in my sights. And it's not the whiteboard itself. The whiteboard, apparently, any whiteboard will work. It's just like, you know, green screen. It knows a green screen. It can recognize a whiteboard. It can recognize the stuff in there, and it does AI to figure out what it is behind you. Because maybe if you moved away from it, it saw what you wrote. And when you go over it, well, you know what? It didn't change, right? That's right. And all of a sudden, it puts it in front of you.
Very cool.
Very cool. We'll talk about it.
I want to see that
show. Yes,
all
that one we'll hopefully see.
Bye,
Thank you, Larry. And hey, I'll catch you perhaps on the other side of all kinds of things. We never know. Let me know if there's any new announcements you wish to care to give out on what's going on. I'll let you know also. Other than that,
I know you know.
Yeah, you know that I know that you know that. Oh, by the way, I'm doing the virtual marathon again, May 4th.
Nice.
Another talk for what you call it, the admin in an hour. The Scottish Summit, of course, I've talked about. The Scottish Summit with my band Scottish accent.
Is it a Star Wars themed one? May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.